One of the things that I've changed my mind on over the years is what type of testing we do with our athletes. And it really depends on your setting, your space, your time, and the numbers that you have to deal with. And so things like FMS and movement testing, I'd love to be able to do that with all my athletes. And it's a non negotiable if I'm working with someone individually. But as a team, I don't always have the ability to do those things. So I have to try to sneak some good movement stuff into their program because I know what some of the commonalities are, but I know I'm going to be missing some stuff. The next thing we look at is maybe looking at max testing, and that's a big controversy. Do I need to max strength test? My question is, what are you going to do with that information? If you're only going to take that information for a record board, I want you to look at your record board at the end of your season and see how many people who are in the top 5 of your record board are also your top 5 performers on the field. And if that doesn't match up, I wouldn't keep a record board. And this is a mistake I've made in the past until I started realizing that the people who are best in the weight room were not always the people who are best on the field. The next thing we look at is we look at any type of speed testing or power testing. We have to make sure that it correlates with the dynamics of your sport. I just had a situation where an athlete who was coming off a hamstring injury, who's a lineman, was asked to test his 40-yard dash in January. Why do we care what a lineman sprints his 40-yard dash anytime, let alone in January, especially coming off a hamstring strain? And then last but not least, we have conditioning tests. Now with conditioning tests, I find this the greatest waste of time because I end up spending time with my athletes preparing for the test instead of preparing them to be better at their sport. And the reality is when they show up for that test, my question for the coach is, if you have a kid show up for your baseball conditioning test and they fail it miserably, they throw up a quarter mile in, but this kid hits tanks and is the best hitter on your team, is he not going to play? Or if you have another kid who comes in and breaks the school record and he's the absolute fastest kid in your conditioning test, but he can't hit, he can't throw, and he has no baseball skill whatsoever, is he going to play? So what good was it? Was it just to create this facade of mental toughness? Please stop doing these conditioning tests that you're not going to do anything with. And as far as the max testing, can there still be value? Sure. I've used max testing to now take those values and plug them into like a 5-3-1 system or a percentage system. So now I give them the exact weight that they're going to use and the exact reps that we're looking for. So that way we have a little bit more clarity in the weight room as opposed to just letting kids arbitrarily pick their weights and then always going to try to max out anyway. And so this puts some guardrails on them. But other than that, make sure your testing applies for what it is you're actually looking for in the games and what's going to ultimately allow us to win.